Welcome back to the channel. We're back today with another Final Fantasy Commander deck profile. Today with Kuja, Genome, Sorcerer. At the beginning of your end step, create a wizard token. That's a 0/1. That'll deal damage to your opponent anytime you cast a non-creature spell. And then once you control 4 wizards, which not necessarily the wizard token, but any wizard at all, you can transform him so that when a wizard you control deals damage to a permanent or player, double that damage instead. So we have plenty of ways to cast instant sorceries, a lot during the same turn. Plenty of wizards that'll deal that damage or bring wizards back from the graveyard in order to make sure we get that transformation right away. Other ways to double that damage as well while we're at it, or ways to cast cards from the graveyard so we can make sure we keep on casting to finish off our opponent as quickly as possible. But that's the general overview of the deck. Let's get into it card by card. As always, we start with Arcane Signet for that mana. Especially with red and black, we want to make sure we have plenty of mana. Brigari, God of Storytelling, whenever you cast a spell, add red mana. We like having mana. We're going to need plenty of mana to keep on going in order to keep on casting more and more spells so that we can keep on doing more and more damage with our wizards. Black Mage's Rod, job select, create a 1/1 token. The creature has the same ability as the wizard token that he creates. So we have something that'll keep on doing that damage, and also the token becomes a wizard, so it'll help us get that transformation even sooner. Balls of Citadel. We're at a certain point in the game where life is just a resource, so we'll, instead of waiting around to wait until we draw our cards, let's cast them off from the top of our deck, so we can keep on going and keep on dealing the damage to our opponent until, we hit 2 lands in a row. Felwar Stone for additional mana, Patrick mana, we're going to be running plenty of wizards in this deck, so we may as well give them a little bit of a stat boost, along with getting additional mana. Ruby Medallion, majority of spells in this deck are red, so let's cast them for just a little bit cheaper. Soul Ring for additional mana, Talisman Indulgence for additional mana, Dawn Vessel. We have quite a few cards in here that'll draw us cards, so no maximum hand size is nice, along with additional mana. And Whip of Erebos. Pairs really well with Bowls of Citadel, because at a certain point, if we cast a instant or sorcery for 2, we lose 2 life, but we have 2 of the wizard tokens on the battlefield. We'll just gain that 2 life right back, allowing us to basically be casting stuff for free. But on to the creatures. We have Enchantments. Comes into play, deals damage to target player equal to the number of non-basic lands that player controls. A lot of people like to run a lot of non-basic lands, so that'll be plenty of damage onto them. And then if we double that, triple that, it could turn into a lot of damage, and also to the wizard in order to get the transformation sooner. Basalt Ravager, once again, wizards get that ability sooner. Enters the battlefield, deals X damage to any target, where X is the greatest number of creatures you control that have creature type in common, aka wizards. We're going to keep creating our wizards with his first ability in order to make sure we keep getting that second ability. Bloodline Necromancer, get our wizard back from the graveyard. It's just nice to have our wizards in order to have that recursion there for this little bit of wizard kindred in this deck. Coruscation Mage, mostly for that damage we want this creature on the battlefield, but it's also nice to have the wizard ability on him as well. Also with the Offspring, it'll get the second wizard onto the battlefield really quickly, and then we'll basically have 3 wizards right before the end step. Dark Confidant. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand, use life equal to its mana. It's a little bit of extra draw power just. We do lose a little bit of life, but hopefully we'll be winning quick enough where we don't need to worry about that. Electric Static Field for additional 1 damage every time we cast the instant or sorcery. Electric Static Infantry. You cast an instant or sorcery, put a +1/+1 counter on him. He has Trample, so that'll be plenty of damage at a certain point, but also a wizard while we're at it. Firebrand Archer. Whenever we cast a non-creature spell, deal 1 damage to each opponent. We have plenty of cards in here that'll do that. Like I said, we have ways to double it, triple it, do a lot of damage to our opponent just by casting an instant sorcery. Of course, assuming they don't board wipe. Gleeful Arsonist, whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, deals damage equal to its power to that player. So it's a wizard, which is the main purpose, but if they cast 4 CMC, we have a damage tripler. They get the creature, but they have to take 12 life for it. Gutter Snipe, it's a shaman, not a wizard, but it deals 2 damage to each opponent every time you cast an instant or sorcery, which is really helpful. Harmonic Prodigy, if an ability of a shaman or wizard happens, it happens in an additional time. We love to see it, especially because we have shamans, we have wizards, mostly wizards in this deck. So it'll deal 2 damage instead of 1 every time we cast an instant or sorcery. Kefka, Dancing Man, He's not a wizard. Whenever it's your turn, he is indestructible. Beginning of your end step, exile a card from each opponent's graveyard. You may cast any number of them. Exile this way without paying their mana cost. Then each player who owns the spell this way loses life equal to its mana value. Especially for doubling, tripling that damage, that'd be a lot of damage to them, along with giving us a free spell. Which, if it's an instant or sorcery, let's just deal that extra damage to them while we're at it. An additional 1 damage dealer with Kestic Flame Breeder. Queen Braun gives us that 0/1 wizard token, or to deal the additional damage to each opponent. We like plenty of these cards that will give us that token in order to make sure we keep on dealing that damage to them. Renoya, Fire Dancer. Beginning of combat on your turn, create X tokens that are copies of another target creature you control, where X is 1 plus the number of instant sorceries you cast this turn. They gain haste, exile them at the beginning of the next end step. But if we cast like 3 instants or sorceries, and then we get 4 more of our wizard tokens, we could have 4 damage dealt to each opponent. Then we triple that with what was it called? I can't think of the name of the card. Oh yeah, City on Fire. It'll allow us to deal plenty of damage. Roaming Drone, in order to double that damage once again. Same thing as, what was it? Harmonic Prodigy. Rockslide Sorcerer, it's a wizard. It deals 1 damage to each opponent every time you cast an instant sorcery. We love to see it. Soulfin, Mayhem Dominus, if you control, would deal non-common damage to an opponent or permanent the player controls. Deals double that damage. Double damage, 2 damage each time. 2 is more than 1. It'll win us the game faster. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery, create a treasure token with Stormkiln Artist. This way we keep having the mana to cast our stuff. And then Storm Splitter. It's a creature with haste that keeps on doubling itself. It's not as good as Scoot Swarm, but you get a certain amount of them on the board. Your opponent can't really do much about it. RS Talent, discard card, draw card, but mostly for the cost reduction. And if a source you control will deal non-common damage to an opponent, it deals 2 more instead. So all of our creatures are dealing 3 damage instead. If we have Soulfim on the battlefield, it's dealing 6 instead. It's really good to see. City on Fire will triple that damage as well. So we go from the 6 damage up to 18 damage. Fire Emancipation will deal triple that damage as well. So we're up to 54 damage. We're already at game. We've already won. What more do you need to do? Only use 6 plus 8. So 14 plus, how much was Dominus? It's 18. Plus him for the original token. So that's 22 mana. That's all that you need. And then plus what you need for the actual instant or sorcery. Oh, sorry. And then you also need 24, 26, 29, 33 mana. I mean, don't you just have 33 mana every turn? Fire Inscription. Enters battlefield, the ring tempts you. That doesn't really matter. But whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. If we're going to be dealing the damage anyway, let's keep on dealing more damage. Underworld Breach, to make sure we keep having those instant sorceries from our graveyard to keep on casting. Herbrest, to make sure we keep on having that mana to keep on casting stuff. He also has his flip side. When you transform him, 3 damage to target creature, create 3 treasure tokens, or until end of turn you may cast instant or sorcery spells from any graveyard. If a spell cast this way would be put into a graveyard, exiled instead. So it helps us get rid of our opponent's stuff, along with giving us an additional bonus for our stuff. Let's get into the second half of the deck. Then on to what we actually have for instants and sorceries. As always, I'll just scroll through the lands at the end, because I was about to say, you don't necessarily have to spend $155 on lands. You could just spend $20 if you really want to. Arcade, 3 damage to target creature, a little bit of removal, or it could remove an artifact, but it's a quick instant sorcery to deal that big damage to our opponent. Big score, a little bit of draw power. Instant sorcery though, that'll deal that damage to our opponent, giving us the treasure tokens to make sure we can keep on comboing off as well. Chaos Ward for that removal, Dark Ritual for that mana, Deadly Dispute, draw power, treasure tokens, keep on going. Demand Answers, draw power. This way we keep on getting, using these spells to keep on dealing the damage, to keep on getting cards into our hand, so we can eventually win a game like that. Lightning Bolt, 3 damage to our opponent. Sometimes you just need that final push. Lindblom, Industrial Regency. It's one of those creature tokens that you want that'll keep on dealing the damage to your opponent. We love to see it. And then you also get to use it as land when you need to. Rakdos Charm, 1 damage to each opponent for each creature they control. It really helps out, giving us that final push. Or you can use it for a little bit of removal. Or, stopping someone from going into their graveyard a whole bunch. Seething Song, It'll give us that free instant sorcery along with 2 additional mana on top of how much it costs to cast it initially. Terminate for a little bit of removal, drill a possibility for that draw power, transpose giving us another wizard token, allowing us to transform Kuja a little bit faster, untimely malfunction for that removal, and virtue of courage deals 2 damage to any target, which will normally be our opponent, in order to make sure that we give that little bit of final push, in order to make sure we have plenty of damage to deal to them. Blasphemous Act for a board wipe, bolt wave, 3 damage to each opponent. Yeah, that's never going to be just 3 damage, because we're going to have at least 1 wizard on the battlefield by the time we cast that. I mean, there's only 1 mana, so in theory we could just do it as our first turn, but we're going to not really do that too much. Circle power, draw power, give us one of those wizards that we want. Faithful Suiting, draw 2, discard 2. You know, that's, in theory, it's draw power, but it's really just a 1 mana spell that'll allow us to cast it again for 3 mana. Grape Shot, you know, since we're going to be casting so many spells, we may as well deal that additional damage to our opponent. And then whenever you cast a spell, copy it for each spell you cast before. Like I said, that final push. Justice's Will gives us that additional mana that we need in order to cast additional spells, along with giving us additional spells off the top of our deck. Live to stage, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until end of your next turn, you may play those 2 cards. Same as Justice's Will, giving us those additional cards that we can play. Mana Geyser, add red mana for every tapped land your opponents control. You know, sometimes you just need that additional mana for that final push. And also, deal damage just by casting it when you have the wizards on the battlefield. Mystic's Mastery, may as well cast all of our stuff from our graveyard again. Like, where's the harm in that? Night's Whisper for that draw power, Read the Bones for some draw power, same with Time and Blood, and Vandal Blast for some removal. But that's the deck there. As always, I'd say if you have your own deck profile, make sure to leave it down there in the comment section. We'll be making sure we build a budget version of this deck as well, because this one is one where it could be quite budget friendly. But yeah, thanks so much. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe so you can stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.